Hi friends, welcome to this latest episode of the Nationalist View. And today we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Zahack Tanvir. Mr. Tanvir, thank you so much for being on the show.
Namaskar and salam. Thank you so much, Anandji, for inviting me again and again. And I really appreciate you for the consistency, and I really appreciate the way you pick your guests on your show.
Thank you, Mr. Tanvir. And today we are going to talk about three different things. Though on the surface they are not, they don't seem to be interlinked, but probably they are. We are going to explore the interlinkages. One, the US invasion of Venezuela.
Hmm.
They have captured basically the state of the head there, Maduro and his wife.
Hmm.
Second, the what is happening in Iran. There is a lot of action which is happening in Iran. There are demonstrations which are going on according to non-official, non-Iranian, sources. There are more than 19 deaths so far, or there are more than
Hmm.
35 deaths so far actually. And according to Iranian officials, the situation is under control, and Trump, the US president, he has threatened to intervene if Iranian protesters are killed. So we are looking at a possibility of a change in regime in Iran. So, and the third thing is the paradox of situation when US talks about Venezuela and Iran and about absence of democracy there, and on the other hand it continues to engage with the military state of Pakistan, which has a political system which is sham in the name of democracy. So Mr. Tanvi, uh, let's first start with Iran. So what is unfolding inside Iran right now, and how stable does this Islamic regime appear amid economic pressure and public unrest?
Yeah, when we talk about Iran, every time any kind of event or any kind of protest happening in Iran, people talk about the regime change. The same word it talks of the town when in June, U.S. and Israel collaborated to bomb Iran, and it happened in June. So people were talking about it, and I was also part of some of the TV discussions and national TV debates, and we had Israelis, we had Americans who were talking about it. But practically speaking, I think it's a far-fetched idea to say that Iranian regime will be, changed. Iranian regime will be replaced. The regime change will happen in Iran. Having said that, we cannot actually expect what will going to happen, as we were not expecting in Syria, but we saw what happened on 8th December 2024, that all of a sudden Bashar al-Assad, he escaped, and the whole regime change happened in Syria. People were talking about it for the past 10, 12 years, and all of a sudden, boom, on December 8th, it happened. But when we talk about Iran, the security system is very strong. We have to understand that. Two things when we talk about the regime change in Iran. The first thing is the security institutions in Iran are very strong. The second thing is the opposition in Iran is null, or it doesn't even exist. So when you compare it with the Venezuela, or when you compare it with Iraq, for example, when you compare it with Iraq, the Saddam Hussein was captured. There were certain groups and there were certain interest groups in UK as well, like the Koi Foundation, the Shia Muslim Koi Foundation, Imam Koi Foundation in Iraq. So they shared the locations and the GPS. So basically, what you say in Sanskrit, the Shatrubodh, right? The Shatrubodh, someone who opens the door from the inside. So in Iraq, it was possible. In Venezuela, the opposition leader is the handpicked guy by the United States. So in Venezuela, it was possible, but in Iran, it's not so easily possible because there is no strong opposition in Iran. Plus, the opposition of Iran doesn't even live in Iran. For example, the daughter of Masoud Rajavi, she doesn't live in Iran. She lives in Albania. So all that group lives in Albania. And Muhammad Shah Raza Pahlavi, he doesn't live in Iran. So the opposition doesn't operate in Iran, the first thing. The second thing is the Iranian security system is very strong at the ground level. They have the Basij militia. You visit a barber shop, you find someone from the Basij militia. You visit a meat shop, you visit a restaurant, any kind of local place or space you visit, you'll find the people from the Basij militia. The second are the Quds Force, and the Quds Force are also very strong. Then finally, on the top of the pyramid, you have IRGC, the Revolutionary Guards, so very close to Imam Khamenei. And since the 1979 revolution, many protests happened. For example, in 1979, the Marxists and the leftists, they started the protest, and Islamists, they jumped in and they again killed those leftists. Then in 2009, protests happened against Ahmadinejad, and people were talking about that, khalas, the Iranian regime is gone, but it didn't go. Then in 2022 and 23, the Mahsa Amini death, huge protests were happening, and even I was writing about it and tweeting about it that the Iranian regime will be gone, but it didn't happen. Qasem Soleimani was killed, and the most of the political pundits were talking about the regime change in Iran. It didn't happen. And in 2025, in June, when Israel and US were attacking Iran, everybody was talking about it, and it didn't happen. So, in short, what I have analyzed is that the security institutions in Iran are very strong, and it's not that easy to replace them. Plus, Imam Khamenei, he's like the spiritual leader for the Shia Muslims. But when you talk about the Shia Muslims, even the Shia Muslims are divided among the pro-Persian and pro-Arab, ethnicity-wise, they're also divided. So all in all, I can say the situation, yes, it comes and people gauge it. And personally speaking, if you ask me that do we really need to have a regime change in Iran? Yeah, we need to have a stable, regime in Iran who doesn't sponsor the militias, who doesn't sponsor terrorism, who doesn't spend on terrorism cross-border. So obviously, we do not want a state in the Middle East which is kind of terrorist sponsor, but at the same time, we have to also look at the other dynamics of the Middle East, that Iran has been sponsoring more than 60 plus militias in Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen. So this is one thing. And the second thing is that most of the Sunni Muslim countries align with the West, with the US, and also with Israel. So the Sunni alliance, the Sunni axis always align with the West, and the Shia axis, or the Russian axis, they align with the Russian axis. So all I can say is that regime change is not a knife through butter in Iran, but nothing is predictable as of now.
So, if we look at the larger question in terms of the Iran's model of Islamism, because you are an expert
Yeah.
in Islamism, especially. So, how do you look at the this Iran's model of Islamism? Is it losing its influence? Is it just a phase after during the Israel after Israel and then US, they have downgraded Iran's capabilities quite a lot, and also the way Hezbollah was hit, and other militant groups which were backed by other terrorist groups which were backed by Iran, they have been hit in the West Asia. So how do you look at the because it's very significant for India also, because Iran shares a border with Pakistan
Mm,
also, and Pakistan being a Sunni state, and then Iran
mm.
being a Shia state. So how do you look at and what do you think? What are going to be its implications for South Asia? Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, when you talk about the political Islam of Iran is absolutely different from the political Islam of the Sunni world, the majority of the Muslim world. For example, in the Sunni world, you hear about caliphate, you hear about the central, leader, and you hear about the Khalifa, especially from the Muslim Brotherhood platforms. You find a same reflection in the Shia Islam called as Wilayat Faqih. So in the Shia Islam, they believe Khamenei to be Wilayat Faqih. Wilayat Faqih is a kind of representative or kind of a viceroy of the actual 12th Imam who's going to be arriving before the end of times. This is what the Shia Muslims believe. So when you talk about the political Islam in Iran, Imam Khamenei, he controls everything from baby product companies to even the uranium companies, companies that produce the baby products to the companies that produce the missile equipments. So he controls everything. And he is the sole person responsible for choosing who'll be the president, who'll be the foreign minister, and who'll be what. And that's not exactly what you see in the Sunni world as of now. For example, in Saudi Arabia, in UAE and Bahrain, you see the religion and the state are different. Like the religious affairs are dealt by the Islamic endowment, and they don't interfere with the foreign policy. And the ruling family of the monarchs, they don't interfere with the religious affairs. So, having said that, but when you look at the population of Iran, majority of the people of Iran are seculars. They don't adhere to the strict version of Islam. Even if you go back to the pre-1979 revolution, you find that most of these Iranians were very soft-spoken, very intellectual, very secular, but the regime is religious. That's not something what you find in the Middle East, especially in Saudi Arabia. The regime is secular, but the people are conservatives. So when they pass any law or when they make any reform, the Saudis, they gauge the public sentiments based on how much they are conservative and how much they want to have liberalism. Based on that, they make the adjustments and the changes. So in short, what I say that Iran is it has a political Islam. It's the tool, and it's the actual tool which it uses to appeal the Muslims worldwide. You know, people in Kashmir, you find people in Kashmir in their houses, you find the pictures of Qasem Soleimani and Imam Khamenei, what they have to do with something with Iran. But you find the spiritual influence or the religious influence in Kashmir. You find the Iranian influence in Egypt. You find the Iranian influence in Nigeria, in Sudan, in Yemen as well. So Iranian political Islam influence is not lost. It is still intact, and it's trying its best to expand the political Islam influence across the Muslim world.
So that, brings us to this issue of you know, uh, is the US invasion of Venezuela. So there is a lot of conversation about that apart from oil and apart from,
Mm,
the drugs issue. So actually the growing presence of China and Iran, and especially the presence of Hezbollah, which was developing bases in Venezuela. So that
mm.
was also one of the prime reasons. So we'll leave right now China out of this because that itself needs a separate discussion. But as we're talking about Iran, so how much of truth is there in this analysis by a lot of Western analysts that actually the Iranian presence in Venezuela was also one of the trigger points for US to invade Venezuela?
Okay, let me speak based on my experience. I used to talk, I used to host, and I used to even have guest posts from people from Ahwaz. So there is a region in Iran which is called as Ahwaz. So in the Ahwaz region, and Sistan and Balochistan. So in these three regions, you find majority of the Iranians to be the Sunni Muslims plus Arabs. So they have the Arab background, and most of the oil that the Iranian economy is based on comes from Ahwaz region. And this oil is exported to Venezuela. So Venezuela, though Venezuela is one of the largest producers of oil, it used to deal directly with Iran. Now, the second thing, I was in Florida, Miami in 2023, and coincidentally, I took a taxi. When I took the taxi, the driver's name was Fadi. And this name Fadi is very common among the Lebanese. And I asked him directly, "Are you Lebanese?" He said, "Yeah, I'm Lebanese." So you connect the dots, and the Lebanon and Hezbollah. So I said, "Yeah, I'm Lebanese." So I said, "How come you're working in United States?" He said that I am originally Venezuelan. So that guy was originally Lebanese, but he had the passport of Venezuela, or he was like he was born and brought up in Venezuela. He said that his father he comes from Lebanon, his mother she comes from Iran, I think. So they married and they migrated to Venezuela. They were living in Venezuela, and this guy was born and brought up in Venezuela. And he applied for the refugee status or asylum in the United States, and he got the asylum status in United States. So you can connect these dots and see that there is indeed a connection between Lebanon, Iran, and Hezbollah and Venezuela. and United States. There is indeed a connection between these three. Second thing, Hezbollah's narco network is very infamous. Okay. And Hezbollah has been using narco network, the first thing. The second thing, the prostitution network. And third, the pornographic industry to mobilize, the weapons or to mobilize the Hawala. So Hezbollah has been using these networks of Hawala, especially in Venezuela and the Cuba, to infiltrate into the United States. The China part, what you have mentioned, yes, it cannot be ignored, but it needs a very lengthy discussion. But at the same time, the alignment of Venezuela with Cuba, Russia, and Iran triggered all this, what happened recently.
Uh, Now let's come to the Pakistan paradox. So how do you explain this dual approach that the United States is aggressively questioning the absence of democracy in Iran and Venezuela, but it engages closely with Pakistan's military and its military dominated political system that has put the most popular opposition leader in jail, and it is carrying out genocides in Balochistan, KPK. So, how do you look at this dual approach of not only United States, but I would say even a large section of the Western world?
So if you look back at the history of the United States, whether Republicans or Democrats, they have always focused on the national interest. When it comes to the national security, when it comes to the national interest, when it comes to the America's interest, they don't care about the dichotomy of democracy or dictatorship. Right now, what they have in Pakistan is the strategic interest. The first thing is the rare earth minerals. The second thing is to contain China and also to keep a blockage for the Afghanistan, to engage Afghanistan or to have a kind of strategic location against Afghanistan. So this is what US looks for. Plus, most of the Sunni Muslim countries, as we just talked about, align with the United States. And as I just recently read, like, this evening I was going through some of the, comments, and I came to know that a NATO kind of alliance is being built where they have majority of the Muslim countries, including Indonesia, including Malaysia, and Pakistan is one of the major contenders of that alliance. So when we talk about the geopolitics of South Asia, you see the Iranian-backed militias like Hezbollah, Hamas, they have not harmed Indian interests. They have not carried out any kind of attack against the Indian interests. But when you look at the Sunni militias, especially sponsored by Pakistan, you see they have carried out humongous amount of attacks against India. So in short, the Iranian militias have not been problematic to India, but they have been problematic to the Arab world and to the Western interests. And the Sunni militias have been problematic to India, but they have not been the problematic or to the Arab world. So when we talk about the paradox of America's interest with Pakistan, the Asim Munir, he has taken control as the chief defense, the chief of the defense forces and the ultimate authority. The same you see in Egypt, the same you see in Syria right now. So America has no problem with the Egyptian leadership and it has no problem with the Syrian leadership. So all these leaderships, if they align with the American interest, America has no problem with it. But when they go against the American interest, then America has a problem with it.
My last question is, so this selective approach of US, so how does it pan out? And also the rest of the Western world also, large sections of the Western world also. So this selective approach, so what does it mean for global peace and the global security architecture, especially when it comes to countering terrorism?
Well, to be really honest with you, this selective approach is not something which is conducive for the world peace because the dictators and the army chiefs in the South Asia, especially in the South Asia, with the tacit approval and the tacit support of the United States, have been really problematic. And we see recently what's been happening in Bangladesh, and it's very disheartening. With due respect, I say that the US Embassy in Dhaka has condemned the death of Usman Hadi, but it has not mentioned about the death of Deepu Chandra. So, when we talk about the human rights, when we talk about the world peace, I think America has to look beyond its own interests.
So one last question. So how should India be dealing with especially this scenario right now? What has happened? Of course, India has come out with a reaction, and especially what is happening in Iran. So India is watching it very closely because India has very close ties with Iran. But there seems to be a lot of what you call kind of there's a lot of quiet on diplomatic front as far as India is concerned. So many analysts they're not able to make out which way India is going to go. So how do you look at the Indian response so far to all these situations?
Well, my understanding is that India has always been non-aligned and India has always been passive watcher. India has been watching all these world events. I believe when uh, Qatar and Saudi Arabia were fighting and Saudi, UAE, Egypt and Bahrain, they put blockade against Qatar. I remember the statement of Sushma Swaraj, the late Sushma Swaraj. She tweeted that it's their matter, so we will not get involved. And yes, when it comes to the neighboring countries of India, for example, when it comes to Pakistan and Bangladesh and Nepal, so India will definitely speak out. And my understanding is that when I spoke to the experts from the Indian side, they believe in diplomacy, in negotiations, and obviously, when the things turn up, they will not be publicizing it as Chanakya laid out the foundation of working quietly and watching the results. So I believe in the Chanakya ideology that India and Indian diplomacy is working on both the sides, and we are yet to see the results.
Thank you, Mr. Tanvir, for taking time out from your busy schedule and sharing your deep insights. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to host you, and we hope to host you back very soon. And thank you, viewers, for watching. And if you have any questions on these issues, you can share it in the comment box. And thank you so much, Mr. Tanvir, once again for being here.
Ji, thank you, Anand ji. Thank you. Thanks a lot.